Hey, it's David. Today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my American Flyer train collection. As you can see, I don't have a whole ton of American Flyer trains because it's not my main focus. My main focus is obviously Lionel O scale, but I do have some stuff and some interesting stories to go along with it. So anyways, let's take a look, starting with the first set. Alright, starting out with this set, which I believe is American Flyer set number 48T, released in the late 1940s. This is a set that was actually part of my grandpa's train collection that he gave me. And I was interested in it because it was out of place. It was the only American Flyer set in the collection. There was 3 Lionel sets, and there was this American Flyer set, and those Lionel sets were all from the late 1950s. So it was kind of curious to me how this American Flyer set from the late 1940s ended up in a collection of late 50s, early 60s era Lionel stuff. Now, I'm not 100% certain, but I believe my grandpa mentioned at one point that this might have been his brother's, so that could be one of the reasons why it seems so out of place. But other than that, it's always been a set that interested me because it looks a lot different from the Lionel stuff. Now, as you can see, it's in pretty rough shape, especially the engine. The cars aren't too bad, but the engine is missing a lot of paint, and the tender especially is really rusty and all that. But on the inside, it's in pretty good shape. I actually took it apart recently just to get a look at it. Now, I have not been able to run this because I don't have an American Flyer set up. The track that it's on right now is some of the only American Flyer track I have, which I believe was originally part of this set. But one of these days, I'd like to get around to setting up some S-gauge and possibly getting this set running. Anyways, let's take a look at the locomotive. Alright, taking a closer look at the engine, this is a number 350 Royal Blue Pacific. This is based off of a real locomotive operated by the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad to pull the Royal Blue Express passenger train. I think this engine does a really nice job of representing the Baltimore and Ohio streamlined Pacific. It does a great job of recreating all those streamlined curves, and is painted realistic to the real locomotive in that dark blue paint scheme. I also really like how it's got the Royal Blue printing all along the side of the running board. Now, what's interesting is that it's got the American Flyer lines print on the tender, but it also has a Baltimore and Ohio logo. So I think it's interesting that they kind of have like 2 railroads represented there, but I don't know, that's something. Another thing I like is that it's almost scale proportions, or about scale proportions, I believe, which is something I've always liked about the American Flyer stuff. Unlike the Lionel stuff, which is all semi-scale for the most part, a lot of American Flyer stuff was near scale, which is something that I thought was very cool. Another thing unique to a lot of these American Flyer trains that I really like are the white walls on the drivers. I think they give them a really classy look, and I think it looks great. Some other details on this engine, as you can see, are the little handrails and stuff along the front of the engine. And you can see there's actually an embossed Baltimore and Ohio logo on the front pilot of the engine, just below the smoke box. Again, this engine is not in the best condition, but I still think it's a really nice looking locomotive. I would love to get it running at some point if I ever get a loop of S-gauge going. I'd probably get a replacement tender just because that one is really beat up, but then again, I might be able to repair it. Now, I'm not looking to repaint this anytime soon, if ever, because this is my grandpa's, so I really want to leave it untouched if I can. But at some point, it'd be nice to get it running. Alright, let's take a look at the rolling stock. Starting with this number 633 Baltimore and Ohio boxcar. This is a nice car, very simple, kind of your classic railroad boxcar with the red paint, single door, simple detailing and all that such. But it looks really nice. It's got some basic printing with the Baltimore and Ohio logo, the 633 road number, as well as the Baltimore and Ohio text and various information on the other side of the car. The doors do open, which is nice, although they're a little bit tight. I don't think I've ever actually opened them. Which, again, that could be from warping. These American Flyer plastic body cars, especially the early ones, had a tendency to warp, especially when they were exposed to changes in temperature. Now, fortunately, my stuff is pretty unscathed, but there is some slight warping. Like, if you notice at the top of the car, there's a slight bow in the roof. But it's not too bad. I've seen some pieces, especially tank cars, they are really rough. But mine have fortunately gotten relatively unscathed. Again, this is a really early set from the post-war period, so it's still got the Lincoln pin couplers and stuff, which I'm not a big fan of, but I've never even used them in operation. Even just having them static display, they do not really look all too good, in my opinion. I think that the American Flyer knuckle couplers look much better. There's actually a little brake wheel detail on this end of the car. It's very small, though. But yeah, it's a very simple little box car, but kind of your classic American Railroad box car. The next car is this number 631 Texas and Pacific Gondola. Again, a very simple car. It's all solid green plastic and some basic printing and on there. Nice car again, very, simple car. I believe this set was probably a lower end set, although the engine is quite nice. But it's just got a couple of these pieces of rolling stock. It looks okay. Again, a little bit warped. You can see along the side with that thin kind of profile it's got there. But not in terrible condition. I could probably get it running if I ever do get it up to operation. I do like how it's got the journals are nice and shiny on all these cars. It gives it that kind of more toy trainy look, which is something that I like a lot. But yeah, again, another simple car, but it looks pretty nice. And of course, lastly, we come to the caboose, which is a Reading number 630. And this is my favorite car in the set. I don't know, something about this car I've always liked. Maybe it's just the shaping or styling of it, but I've always really liked this car. I've been drawn to it. Plus, it's lighted, which I think is nice. I also like how the windows are blocked out so you can't see the inside. It gives it a very realistic feel. Overall, it just feels like a nicely proportioned car. It's got some simple detailing with the stamped metal ends, as well as you can't really see it. It's kind of hidden by the cupola, but if I take it off the track there, a little smokestack represented by that piece of metal there. I get it, it's a nice car, simple decoration and all that, but I really like the shaping and general feel of this piece. I think it's a really nice car. It's also got a pretty good weight to it, I think, because it's got that heavy metal bottom from being a lighted car, so I think it's a nice way to cap off the set. Also have two other pieces that go with the set. This is the transformer that came with it, and this is a pretty solid little piece. It's all stamped sheet metal and stuff, very heavy. Now it's unlikely that I'll ever use this because it's not in the greatest condition, and I probably would just use one of my Lionel transformers to control these American Flyer trains. But I think it's a cool piece. It's not in the worst condition, although there's a bit of corrosion on there. I do love how that American Flyer text looks up there. It's very contemporary for the time. It looks awesome. And I have this number 706 remote uncoupler, which I guess would uncouple the cars. I imagine that this would go in between the rails, possibly. Now, I'm not an expert on the American Flyer trains. If you can't tell, I do Lionel, so I don't know a ton about this stuff, but I found it was pretty interesting, and I do believe this originally came with the set. Now that we've taken a look at that set, it's time to talk about the other half of my American Flyer collection, which has a pretty funny story to go along with it. So the next thing I want to talk about are these 5 American Flyer cars, which are all part of a lot of stuff that I got probably close to 10 years ago now. My dad found them, I believe, at like a yard sale or a flea market or swap meet or something of those sorts. I really can't remember. It was a long time ago. But anyways, I remember he handed me this lot of train stuff, so I thought it was super cool. But shortly after that, we moved, and I lost this. I couldn't find it. But I did have one thing from the lot of stuff still. This American Flyer light tower here. This is the only piece that I still had. I think it must have got put in a different box or something, but it was the only thing that I still had. And actually, after a while, probably close to 6-7 years, I would think, I thought about these trains from time to time. I wondered where they went, and I even started to wonder if I ever actually had them, because I was so young, I couldn't even remember if I possibly dreamed about them or just thought I had them or something. But I knew that I must have, because I still had this light tower, and so I knew that these trains must have existed, but I wasn't sure exactly where they were. But anyways, fast forward to, I believe it was 2020 or 2021, and my sister and my grandma, they go to my grandpa's house, right? Not the same grandpa who gave me the trains, but my other grandpa. But anyways, they go there. Well, to my surprise, they come back and they hand me a box with these trains in it, the trains that I lost so many years ago. So, it turns out that when we were living there for a little while, I must have put these trains in a place, and then when we moved out, I forgot them. So, I had my memories were confirmed. I remember having these trains. I remember a couple of these cars that I had, and so I found them again. So that was kind of an interesting story because I had completely, not really forgotten about them, but kind of forgotten about what they were and where I could have even put them. I thought for sure, well, they must be lost for now. They haven't turned up now. We had moved a couple times since then, and I hadn't seen them, so I figured that they were gone. And then one day, they turn up randomly. So I was very happy to see these again. It's a cool lot of cars. Like I said, again, if I ever do get an S-gauge setup going, I would definitely be pulling these. They're in pretty nice shape. But anyways, let's take a look at these cars. Starting with this Northern Pacific refrigerated car, which this is definitely my favorite car in the whole set. I absolutely love the way this looks with the paintwork and the detailing and the type and all that. It looks like an awesome classic railroad car with the orange and the brown and everything like that. I love this car. I would definitely love to pull this behind a couple American Flyer locomotives if I ever get anything like that set up. But I love all the detail. I believe it's made of metal too. It feels, no, it might be plastic, but other than that, it has a good weight. It looks really nice. It's got opening doors. The only issue with it really is there's a couple scratches and stuff, some rust on the trucks, and also this Northern Pacific emblem here is kind of worn down, which is a shame, but it doesn't bother me too much. You can still see some of it. So, I don't know. I've always really liked this car. I've always been drawn to it. I think it really stands out nicely with that really bright orange color. And I think it's probably one of my favorite American Flyer cars that I have in my collection. The next car is this number 639 boxcar, and this is about as simple as it gets. It's a single molded piece of plastic. The doors are molded on, and the only print on it is the American Flyer type here, and the number 639. And these are pretty common cars, so it's not really all that special, but I always thought it was interesting because it was just one big yellow boxcar, so it kind of always stood out for that reason. But, again, nothing super special. The trucks are in nice shape, though, so what I might end up doing at some point is taking the trucks off of this and putting them on that Northern Pacific car, because I don't have nearly as much interest in this piece as I do that Northern Pacific car, so that might be a project for a future day. Next up is this American Flyer number 640 hopper car. Again, very simple, just one single piece of molded gray plastic, but not a bad car, and it's my only American Flyer hopper car, so it's nice. In fact, other than the gondola, it's the only other car in my collection that isn't a stock car or a box car or a reefer of some kind. So it's nice for that reason. But yeah, very simple, but nice shaping, nice molding, and again, near scale proportions, so it looks nice running again against other stuff. Next up is this number 629 Missouri Pacific stock car, and this is another nice piece. Again, one of those more simple pieces of railroad rolling stock, but this has got some nice print and a pretty nice design on it too. It's got, as you can see, all the simulated slots and stuff, as well as the door is actually cut out, which is nice. These slots are so small that it's not even really noticeable that they're not punched in all the way through. It's got some the Missouri Pacific print on it, and the road name and stuff looks nice. And I really like the Missouri Pacific logo up here. And I've always been drawn to the Missouri Pacific road name because some of the first Lionel Trains that I ever saw were my grandpa's number 205 Missouri Pacific Alcos, so since then I've always enjoyed the road name. But overall, this is a pretty nice car. And lastly, we've got this number 638 caboose, and this is very similar to that other caboose, the Reading, although it's slightly different. It's not quite as nice of a piece because it's not lighted, as you can see, so it's lighter and it's all hollow and stuff, but it's still got that really nice shaping that I enjoy. It's got the smoke details and the handrails and such, but this one's just labeled for American Flyer, so it's a little bit more simplistic, but still a nice car, and you gotta have a caboose to end up a train. Lastly, we come to this, and this is not an American Flyer piece, but it was a part of that collection of American Flyer stuff, so I figured I'd talk about it anyways. And this is a Marx Baltimore and Ohio gondola. Now, this is a pretty cool car because it's the only Marx piece that I have in my collection, at least piece of rolling stock. I have a Marx tunnel and a couple Marx switches, but this is my only piece of Marx rolling stock, and I think it's pretty interesting. It's got that really classic lithograph look on there. Now, it's really not in great shape. The wheels and trucks are very corroded, and the other side's got lots of rust on it. But the body itself here, especially this side, looks pretty nice, and I actually really like the detail that the lithograph adds. Now, Marx is not my favorite. There's a lot of people that really like Marx. It's never really caught my attention in terms of the hobby, but I think it is pretty neat to have this car. Now, I can't run it with anything, again, because I don't have any Marx engines, and it has those couplers. But I think it's a cool piece to have for display. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed taking a look at my American Flyer Trains collection, and hearing some of the stories that go along with them. If you did enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a like or a comment below. And if you want to see more stuff like this, subscribe to my channel. Thanks.